All right, today let's talk about login in Java. Stop using System.out.println. Learn real Java login with Log4j2. The presentation is going to go something like this. Why do we log versus System.out.println? Basic setup, loggers versus appenders, log levels from trace to fatal, and a quick demonstration. Why log instead of System.out.println? This is because we can control the verbosity, control our log output without changing the code. We can route our login output, so we can route it to the console, which is what System.out.println does, but we can also write it to a file, write it as JSON, write it to a remote collector, write it to the cloud, write it anywhere. I don't know about anywhere. Timestamps, thread, class, and level are included. Performance and asynchronous login. And we can disable this in production, or we can tune per package. So how do we set this up? So add in log4j in Maven. So first of all, you're gonna create a new Maven project. The reason it's Maven is because you need that pom.xml file. So you're gonna go to the Maven website. You're gonna go to the dependencies website, and you're gonna probably search for something like log4j. So basically, it has two parts. There's the API and the core. Please add both of these dependencies as seen here. And also, there's also going to be a log4j XML that we're going to have to place in src/main.resources. That's going to be next. So this is our log4j2 XML file. So this is the minimal setup. So we're going to add an appender. We're going to add a logger. This is a console appender because the target is system out, and we gave it a name console. This is the root logger, and we have it starting at a level of info. We'll talk about levels shortly. Package level loggers do override root loggers, but not so much for this example. And as I already mentioned, this is going to have to go into src/main/resources folder. Very important, has to go in this folder. If the folder's not there, create it. Loggers versus appenders. So your logger, that's your class entry point. That's where you call the log methods. That's how you log in Java. The appender is where your logs go to, whether it goes to the console, the file, the cloud, wherever. And in the log4j XML file, you can create multiple appenders. The layout, how line looks. So if we go back, this pattern layout, that's going to determine how our output looks. And in the flow, we have our logger. It checks the level. Depending on the level, it may or may not log through an appender. And then the appender, it determines where our output goes. We have 6 different log levels. The lowest is trace, the highest is fatal. So trace is just your very fine-grained login. Debug is of interest to developers because that's where we get our diagnostics. Info is just normal business events. Warn is when something unexpected happens, but you can recover from it. Error means your operation failed, and fatal means that this whole system crashed and you can't go on. And the log methods are based on these 6 levels. So you'll have like logger.trace, logger.debug, logger.info, and so forth. You'll see that in the demo. Typically, the way we do loggers is we create a static final logger per class. That's typically how they do it in industry. And then you can guard expensive message with parameterized login. And you can tune the levels per environment. So you can set your root logger to only log messages of a certain level. And you'll see this in the demo. And in our demo, we're going to run a sample class using all 6 methods. We're going to change the root level from info to trace and see what a difference that makes. And after we do that, we will observe which messages appear. All right, looks like we have everything we need. Let's go ahead and run this. Okay, it looks like we've logged everything from info and above. The only thing we didn't log was trace and debug. Now let's go to our log4j2 XML file and see what happens when we change it. So let's change this to trace. Trace. Run this again. Now we have trace and debug in addition to everything else. So there you go. This is how you configure a simple login project with Log4j2. Thank you very much. Peace. Here's the actual code that was run, in case anybody wants to know. All right, now I'm really out. Peace.